Hey, what's up YouTube? Houston here. And if you're trying to figure out if you have the right type of business or if you're starting the right type of business to get funding from financial institutions. Alright, so today's video we're actually going to be talking about that, the right type of business that has cash flow. This is the key thing, the key term that I want you all to focus on. The right cash flow. All right, now basically we always talk about the high risk NAICS codes, and that's basically what that cash flow could end up being, the right type of business model you have. Now that being said, what's that high risk NAICS code that a lot of lenders are trying to stay away from, especially in a time like this? Okay, one of them is restaurants. Now most people think, oh, I'm gonna start a restaurant, you know, and they done put all their life savings and 401ks into this restaurant because the community or the church is saying, hey, you cook pretty good. If you start your own restaurant, we'll support you and stuff. But here's the kicker. Most of the time, people end up starting a restaurant and then they finding out that the majority of the people that support them isn't from their own community, isn't from their church community, right? A lot of people realize that, hey, my church isn't going to support me the way they may come and like maybe about 3 or 4 times and support you or whatever, but not on a regular basis, not like as regular as they would visit a McDonald's, right? So that's the reality of it. So in terms of with restaurants being high risk, again, things that you want to consider in reference to thinking about a restaurant, you probably want to consider like a food truck. All right, that way with a food truck, because you're able to move around from location to location. But the thing about it with restaurants, because you're in that area, you have to pay federal tax, state tax, city tax, food tax, tax, right? So the thing about it, if you're in that restaurant and the traffic isn't coming in and you still have to pay that tax bill, at least with a food truck, you're able to move around and go to the crowd, to go to the community and show them what you have to offer. And with restaurants, they have a 90% chance of a failure rate. Most restaurants, truthfully, most restaurants, most of them don't show a profit, number one. Number two, most of them, the average annual revenue on many restaurants is less than $75,000 a year. Okay, many of them don't even make it that high. So granted, there's a lot of restaurants out here and stuff, but the mom and pop restaurants, if you notice how they struggle, all right? So that's number one. That's a high risk. Number two is seasonal type of business. Now, seasonal type of business, we're in the 4th quarter of the year, so seasonal type of business like you're selling pumpkins or you're selling fall gathering type of stuff, you know, or you selling Christmas trees, or you may open up a ski resort or something like that. That's a seasonal type of business, okay? And so with those type of seasonal type of businesses, they know that people are only going to come a certain amount of time out of the year or whatever, depending on the conditions and what's the occasion or whatever. So a seasonal type of business also is a high risk, low cash flow type of business, okay, for financial institutions to back. All right, now the third one, right now we're in this thing called a real estate bubble, right? And so what that means is basically, for some of us that are not aware, is that people have bought more house than they can afford. And because they bought more house than they can afford, they didn't calculate in like if property taxes is going to go up. They didn't calculate in, if I lose my job. It's a lot of companies right now, they're gonna have a slaughter of laying people off, people that have paid a lot of money for their homes and stuff. So now those companies starting to downgrade and stuff for their profit margins and stuff like that. So you're going to see a lot of housing come on the market. So that's the reason, like with real estate, construction and stuff, a lot of lenders, they don't like to really invest into it unless they know they're going to get a good profit from it. It's very hard to find funding for it. All right, so in terms of you trying to get into real estate development and stuff, yes, that's a high risk NAICS code. If you're going to try to do something around real estate to raise capital, you probably want to consider like property management or something of that nature, but you don't want to go and say that you're a real estate developer or a contractor or something like that. Now, in terms of contractor, like a handyman service or whatever, that's fine. But when you're talking about real estate and trying to buy and sell and flip, again, like I said, because with real estate, it's so many variables that you can't control. Like if you're doing buying and flipping or whatever, say you're flipping houses and stuff, well, there's construction costs that's in it, you know, and so if that supplies go up and you don't have enough discretionary, guess what, you're going to walk away from the project, you know, or you're going to try to dump it as fast as possible, right? So that's the reason that like a lot of financial institutions, they look at this as such a high risk. All right, so those are your top high risk, low cash flow type of business for a lot of financial institutions. Now, let's talk about some that are like in the middle when it comes to funding, like a franchise, mini franchises, because again, startup costs depend on, you know, the location. If the market is actually requesting that type of franchise in their community or whatever. Sometimes people try to force a franchise or whatever and it doesn't go as well. Also, the thing about a franchise that I tell people, I don't care for them because you're still growing somebody else's brand, right? So my thing is, I'm not going to put my money in something where I'm continuing to grow somebody else's brand. If I'm going to put all my sweat equity into something, I want to grow my own brand, something that I can leave as a legacy or whatever, because you can't call the rules at like a McDonald's or a Jack in the Box or a Chick-fil-A, you know, or something like that, or a different type of UPS or FedEx printing company and stuff. It's just that brand, right? So you continue to grow their brand, right? Yeah, you can buy a franchise in it, but at the same time, it's still their name. They the ones call the shot. They tell you where to buy stuff, where to buy product and stuff like that, what the cost and stuff, whether you can advertise here or how you advertise, who to. So it's just too much when it comes to franchising, okay? Now, in terms of franchising, like I said, cash flow and stuff, again, it just depends on where the market is, if the market has a demand for it, okay? So that's one of the mid-range type of business that's like a so-so, all right? Another one is like agencies like day labor type of agencies that require a lot of cash flow to get up, so you're able to pay people on a daily basis. That's a high risk as well. It's in the middle because you don't know, you may be on a 30, 60, 90-day term with companies and stuff, but you still have to continue to pay people until that money actually comes in. A home health aid type of agency and stuff like that. Trying to find reliable people to actually get more clients in the door and things of that nature. High risk because of the insurance. People not having reliable people that can deal with your clientele and stuff like that. So those are like your mid cash flow. Like I said, with the money can come in, but you have to find reliable people to deal with your clients and stuff. So that's the reason, like it's like a so-so situation. Now, another one you may want to moving on to some of your low risk NAICS codes, are higher volume cash flow type of businesses. Now those are like your SaaS. SaaS is a software as a software as a service type of thing. So selling different softwares and stuff like that that have a monthly residual coming in and stuff like that. That type of business, a subscription type of business like Hulu, Netflix, website builders, those type of subscription based businesses. Now those are high cash flows because you have people on the subscription. If you ever notice on Shark Tank, when people are pitching to them, most of their businesses, the number one thing they ask is how many subscribers you have, how many repeated customers you have that are continuing to buy your product. This is very important because it costs so much to obtain a customer. You would want to figure out, how do I get that existing customer back through my door to buy or invest in more of my products and stuff like that. So the higher that subscription number is, and the more you're able to retain that existing customer versus trying to go out and get a new customer, that's what they're looking at. Even like in terms of competition, trying to start a business or something, I always tell people to use the business model that I use, like in terms of working with people. For a lot of people that don't know me, don't know my product and stuff, I look at my biggest competition and I share my biggest competition with them, somebody that has more marketing dollars than I do. Okay, so that gives them a better opportunity to be able to say, hey, I trust this guy because he's still trying to help me. At the same time, I'm also making a profit on the back end, not off the client, but off of the company, because I'm promoting them as well. Okay, so I'm still building that relationship. And so that's what you have to think, especially when starting a business. Look at your biggest competition, and if you have a business that, oh, ain't nobody in this market or in doing this or whatever, then you may want to relook at it, because trying to introduce something new to the market or whatever that people aren't familiar with, even though it may be great, it probably end up sitting on the shelf. You know, because again, it takes so much to re-educate people. So that's the reason a lot of companies, they never want to try to re-educate people. They try to just update what they currently have so that people can actually feel comfortable enough to say, hey, what else you have? And then that's how they introduce their other products and stuff. That being said, marketing agencies, again, small businesses always need marketing, right? They always need companies to market them, to advertise them and stuff like that, because there's a lot of small businesses, mom and pop business out here. The reason that most businesses can't get or end up going out of business is not because they can't get money, it's because they can't get a customer. All right, and because you don't know anything about marketing and stuff, it makes you struggle. So you may have a lot of cash over here, but you don't know how to get a customer. Okay, so it doesn't matter how good the product is, if you can't get a customer, it's a waste of time. All right, so that's the reason, like in terms of the type of business you're looking for good cash flow, another one of the ones you want to consider is a carrier business. A carrier business has a very good cash flow. Now, here's something I'm going to tell you right now that most people aren't talking about, and it's scary. A lot of the trucking industry is straining right now, okay? A lot of people that are owner-operators, they're losing because it's so many regulations that's hitting them, okay? Not only regulations, you still have fuel costs and everything. And so because a lot of companies are trying to undercut them on paying out for loads and stuff, so they're offering them less money for loads and things of that nature. So when they're doing that type of thing, it makes it harder for like long haul trucking and stuff. So it's easier to set up a carrier company. It's easier to set up a carrier company, because you can use a box truck, a regular truck, a van, a car, or anything like that, and still make money, okay? And the overhead costs and the regulations aren't like when you're doing long haul trucking and everything. So that's something you want to take into consideration, especially if you're thinking about starting a trucking company. You may want to seriously reconsider and change it from a trucking company to like a carrier type of company, because it's easier funding, more cash flow, less regulations. All right, now also, as well as like delivery type of businesses and stuff like that. What's happening now, even like with DoorDash, Instacart and stuff like that, they're starting to see slowdown in people requesting for deliveries and stuff like that. And the reason is because there's a cash crunch. That disposable income is being eaten up in fuel costs, food costs, you know. So because that's being up. People are not getting the type of people are not getting as many orders and stuff like that, but it's still a safe bet for you to actually either be a carrier or delivery type of business. Now, if you have challenges with structuring the business the correct way in order to do this, click the link in the description, schedule a one-on-one consultation. Okay, if you have questions about getting business credit funding, personal credit funding, removing negative items off your credit, click the link in the description and schedule a one-on-one consultation. Thank you.